Good evening, everyone. This is a regularly scheduled meeting of the Waterville City Council. There are agendas available in the file pocket near the door or on the City of Waterville's website. All items listed under unfinished business or new business are voted on separately. First, councilors will be given an opportunity for questions or comments. Once all councilors have had an opportunity to speak, citizens will be given an opportunity for comments or questions. Citizens must speak at the podium and identify themselves. Each citizen will be allowed 1 minute or up to 3 minutes to speak. And finally, the councilors will be given another opportunity to speak or comment. Citizens who would like to speak on a topic that does not appear on tonight's agenda will have an opportunity to do so during the public comment section of the agenda. Pledge of Allegiance.
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Disclosure of conflict of interest. Seeing none, we're going to move on to the presentation.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Dr. Katie Spencer-White. I am the President and CEO at Mid-Maine Homeless Shelter and Services here in Waterville, and I am here this evening to share with you all how we have been utilizing the funding that was allocated by Council to our organization from the American Rescue Plan Act funding that we received in allocated in late 2021 and received in mid to late 2022. All right, next slide. So I wanted to set the table really quickly and remind what this funding comes from. This was pandemic-related funding. Specifically, the federal government, Congress allocated billions of dollars for a host of services. And what you see here in this slide, we are in the category for, let's see, COVID response. There it is. So this is COVID response funding, and specifically, next slide, please. To address a number of factors, we're governed by two specific Treasury rules, the final rule of 2022, and then earlier this year, the Treasury put out an interim final rule for 2023. So this is how we understand what the eligible uses of the funds are. And we are specifically looking at negative economic impacts. That falls under the 2022 final rule. The square you see in the lower right corner, that relates specifically to the 2023 rule, which for my purposes, we're not going to pay attention to, but I did want to acknowledge that there is some new rules and eligible uses of funding. Next slide, please, Patty. All right, so in late 2021, we were still in the thick of the pandemic, and Councilor Green approached me and asked me what could we do to address specifically housing insecurity. We came up with a 3-point plan that focused primarily on case management, prevention and diversion from entering into the homeless services system, and a final strategy to ensure housing stability for some of our most vulnerable folks in the community that relied on a program called master leasing. Next slide, please. So case management is really the bread and butter of the services that homeless services agencies provide. Many of us provide case management services through Main Care. So guests who are eligible for Main Care, we can receive reimbursable income from DHHS. The challenge for a lot of folks who are facing housing insecurity is that they either are not eligible for Main Care, or there are no other sources of case management that can support people who are in a crisis. And what case managers do, in essence, is help people navigate complex systems and provide the additional support they need in order to establish goals and work through to a successful conclusion. So we set up our program and modeled it on the work that we do through Main Care. We receive $45,000 for case management. We based it on the same reimbursement rate that we received through Main Care. So essentially what that means is we provided 2,045 billable units. We served 68 clients. There was an average spend of just under or just over $660 per client, and that amounts to about 7.5 hours of support. You see there also some demographic information related to the clients that we served, the average age being about 44 years old. The spread was 20 years to 81 years. They were with us for about 60 days while they worked on their stability plans. 50% of the folks that we served wrestle with substance use disorder. Another 78% have a major mental illness. 44% are survivors of domestic violence. And just those three right there, you get a very good sense that these are folks who have been in crisis and they do require some support. Specifically, folks who have these challenges can find it very difficult to, when we talk about, all of us have difficulty navigating complex systems, but when you have crisis and trauma, it can make it nigh on impossible to fill out applications, to track those applications, and to stay on top of the agencies and the support services that you need to get back to stability. In terms of income, 53% of the folks that we served were relying on some sort of benefits, SSI or disability income. 9% had veterans benefits. 6% had earned income. And again, not surprising given the other challenges that they face. Many of them were not able to sustain permanent employment. And another 29% came to us without any kind of income whatsoever. Notwithstanding that, I think the obvious question is, why weren't they receiving Main Care? Sometimes they have assets and resources that are in their name that preclude them from receiving other benefits. So or they lack identification and other things that will allow them to receive those benefits. So that's part of the work that we do, is helping people get the identity documents and the other paperwork in order so they can qualify for other sustainable sources of support. Next slide, please. So what is it exactly that a case manager does? These are the top 5 referrals, getting established with Main Care and food stamps. Many folks, surprisingly, despite their profile, come to us without a primary care physician or any other kind of clinical support for the challenges they face. We also connected folks to mental health and substance use counseling. One of the things that we are experts at is helping people navigate housing applications. So that's everything from finding a rental unit on market or qualifying for vouchers and other kinds of subsidy that would be a sustainable resource. And we also helped people, again, missing identity documents can mean you don't qualify for anything. So getting those in place. Remember, 7.5 hours on average. We're doing all this work within an average of 7.5 hours. Next slide, please. I'm not going to go over each of these. I provided a couple of case studies for you all to understand. This first one is about a gentleman. The names have been changed, and we've tried to change some of the details to de-identify them. So Titus is a veteran, struggles mightily with mental health and substance use disorder. We connect, and again, one of our clients who came to us without primary care physician was disconnected from the Veterans Administration. So case management put all of those things in place. Helped him build relationships within the community, secured a housing voucher, and is working with him to identify a unit out in the community. Next slide, please. Kimmy is also another typical guest or our typical client for case management, a senior who's also asset restrained in terms of owned a dilapidated house that was not fit for human habitation. But because of that asset, was not eligible for other resources. So we were able to connect Kimmy with the resources that she needed, again, housing voucher, and we're helping her search for a unit out in the community. I will say this, because sometimes I'm asked about it. What happened? The money, we've used up all $45,000. There's no case management dollars left. What happens to these guests? If we can get them connected to Main Care, we transfer them over to that service. If they are not eligible for Main Care, we provide that service unfunded until they get to housing stability. Next slide, Patty. Thank you. All right, our second program is prevention and diversion. They're really two sides of a similar coin. This graphic you see right here comes from the National Coalition, the National Alliance to End Homelessness. And one of the things we know on a national level is that prevention and diversion are key strategies in any community for preventing and ending homelessness. Specifically, they're really targeting people at different points in the continuum of their housing emergency. So diversion is really directed at people who are going to be out tonight or within the next 24 hours. They have been couch surfing, and that placement is coming to a rapid end. The eviction notice, the eviction order for eviction has been rendered by the court. People who are in really dire circumstances. Prevention moves a little bit higher up that timeline where they know it's imminent, but there's a chance that we can prevent that eviction or stabilize that housing placement, and we can work on that. And then eviction prevention is just what it says on the tin. When we know that there is a preliminary or a hearing for a summary judgment, we can sometimes negotiate with a landlord and, again, prevent that eviction from taking place. Next slide, please, Patty. So this is a breakdown of how we utilized the $155,000 of prevention and diversion funding. We have, as of the end of August, used just over $127,000 of that funding. So there is some funding that remains. It is restricted. We have a number of different sources of funding for prevention and diversion. We restrict this specifically to City of Waterville residents, so I want to assure Council that it's only being utilized for folks who are from the community. There's a couple of key categories. We are working really hard to keep people in their existing housing. It's a lot easier to keep people in the homes that they have rather than trying to rehouse people once they have a final order for eviction. We also have some other financial assistance, sometimes outside of rent and or back utilities. There's some other things that can help people stabilize a housing situation. For example, somebody might have a job that they can't get to because they need an essential repair on their car. We can put some money towards repairing that vehicle and getting it back on the road so that person can get back to work, and then it's a light touch. They're off to the races and they don't need any other assistance. Diversion, relocation, and stabilization. Part of the work that we do is having housing positive conversations and trying to assist people with identifying natural supports. Very often, some of the folks that we work with have not been in contact with those natural supports or are not sure how to have very difficult conversations about mend fences and build bridges back to families of origin, for example. And we can help facilitate those conversations and give people the courage to pick up the phone. One of my favorite stories is about a young person who we needed to divert from coming into the shelter. And in the course of that housing positive conversation, we identified a grandmother who lived in the Midwest. He hadn't talked to grandma in a couple of years and was really concerned that he was going to get rejected. And that's one of the fears that a lot of folks have when we are talking about their natural resources. But we worked with him and encouraged him, and unsurprising to a lot of us, when grandma picked up the phone, she was exceedingly happy to hear from her grandson, wanted to make sure that he'd been eating properly, and then we purchased a bus ticket and got him back out to that loving family. So that's an example of a successful diversion. We've also provided a couple of security deposits. Sometimes folks call us and they say, look, I've found a unit, I just need a little bit of money for the security deposit. And again, we don't need to provide any other assistance. It's a light touch, and we've made sure that person is stable in their housing. So we still have a little bit further to go on with that funding, and we're glad that we do. The average age for prevention and diversion is about 42 years old. The age range is anywhere from our youngest client was 2 days old to 87 years old. The majority, 80% require assistance with back rent and utility assistance. There's been a lot of talk, I think, over the last few years about rental arrears and utility assistance. There are some cases where we can't assist. We had one client, for example, come to us with a $13,000 CMP arrearage. That's a much more complex one to assist with. In cases like that, one of the things that our diversion workers do, you'll see there's a staffing line. They will work extraordinarily hard to partner with other agencies to put together a plan of action Obviously we can't spend $13,000 on one client, but we'll work with other partners to see if there are strategies we can put in place to mitigate the impact of a huge bill, for example. And then about 20% relocated to natural supports outside of the area and or Maine. Next slide, please, Patty. All right, so from October 22nd, I think we received the funding in September. We started utilizing the funding in October. We've served 142 individuals overall. 62% were adults, 38% were children, about 54 households. Just under 60% of our referrals come from Waterville GA, another 17% from Waterville Housing Authority. So those are our two biggest customers, if you will, with an average of just under $900 per person. And again, that's a mathematical average. Some people were putting down $2,500 for back rent. Some people, it's a $200 bus ticket. It really just depends on the needs of the particular client. Next slide, please. This is an actual picture of a family. We got a release for that one, but this is actually one of the clients that we served through diversion. So a mom with two sweet girls. The majority of our clients fall into one of these three categories in terms of how did they get here. Many are Social Security recipients who, because of inflation, fall behind on their meeting their basic needs. Many are working poor and work on minimum wages and but unfortunately don't qualify for other services and benefits. Sometimes they do, and they just don't know. So one of the things our diversion specialists will support folks with is identifying. So we always want to make sure that once we've provided some assistance, we're also putting in a sustainable plan. So we do a lot of work in terms of basic budgeting and education, connecting to other services to help make that household sustainable for the future. And many others are like this mom who are carers and have limited income and they rely on their children's benefits. Next slide, please, Patty. And I'm going to paraphrase this one, but one of our clients was the Brown family. It was a multi-generational family, 8 people in the household, Mr. and Mrs. Brown, their children, plus a grandmother, and one of her other sons who had developmental delays. So they were trying to live together under one household, mitigate their overall housing expenses. Mrs. Brown had been employed, went on maternity leave, and did not have a job to return to when she was ready to go back to work. The problem was, because of that history of employment, they were told initially that they were not eligible for any other kinds of assistance. And the family fell behind 3 months in their rent, and the out-of-state landlord was able to secure an order for eviction. Our diversion and prevention team were able to find a new rental unit relatively quickly. We paid for the first month's rent and a security deposit. We're also able to establish Social Security benefits, work with the grandmother who was a carer, make sure that she was getting all the benefits that she was entitled to as a carer as well. Again, worked on basic budgeting and other financial management skills, and worked with the Waterville school system to ensure that the children's needs were being met. So a total spend of $2,800 and about $350 per person. Next slide, please, Patty. Finally, master leasing, which I know has generated a lot of excitement. And I put here a couple of placeholder graphics because we haven't started master leasing yet, but there's a very good reason for it. This is funding that we also received in the fall of 2022. And almost immediately thereafter, Maine Housing expanded a program that they had been piloting in other parts of the state called rapid rehousing. Many of the premises of rapid rehousing model or replicate what we find in master leasing. So what we were able to do is hire the staff and secure additional office space and do some of the preparatory work to launching the master leasing program. They're going to be using the same staff, but we've done it using master leasing dollars, launching the rapid rehousing program, engaging landlords, and building the trust and rapport in building a network of landlords who are ready to work with this. There's a lot of work with us. There's a lot of interest in master leasing right now. And we are currently reviewing the paperwork, the legal documents to make sure that everything is going to work as we assume it's going to work, and we anticipate launching that program in the third or the fourth quarter of 2023. And that will put us firmly in line to meet the Treasury's deadline. The money has been obligated, and we will definitely spend it long before the deadline in 2026. So that's where we are, $400,000. The first $200,000 is largely expended through case management and the prevention and diversion program. And the remaining $200,000 is going to go towards master leasing, and we are ready to launch in the next few months. I'll pause there and take any questions.
So one of the big issues that's probably going to be addressed in the near future is taxes. Pretty much double in Waterville. For all the landlords, I'm in that situation. So when they double, my rent, the landlord wanted to charge $950 because his rent, his property taxes are doubling. That means that people that are on low income now especially can't afford it. So by doubling the taxes, we're doubling the amount of people that
risk.
are going to be homeless, you know, because people can't afford $950 for a single bedroom, you know. I mean, that's I don't know what y'all gonna do with that coming up, you know. I mean, that's,
Sure, and I would say this is a statewide problem, and I'm also a renter, not in Waterville, but I understand that the consequences that landlords pass on the cost of operating to those of us who are occupying the asset. I can't say that. I mean, it really comes down to funding. Do we have funding? When we have funding, we can certainly plug holes. Having spoken to a lot of civic leaders, I think that there's, and I would direct this back to council and to our new city manager, that's something for them to address. If there is funding available to help mitigate the impact of that, but certainly. And so if there's money available, we'll certainly be in a position to allocate that and prevent as many people from losing their housing and working to stabilize as many folks as we possibly can.
I'm going to have to get you guys to go up there to speak because they won't be able to hear you online.
I'm sorry, what?
You have to come up here.
To the podium, sir.
Okay, I'm not here.
No.
I can't hear. I'm just wondering what difference it makes whether it's an out-of-state landlord or an in-state landlord.
All right. So the question is, I mentioned it was an out-of-state landlord, and what difference does that make? Very often what we experience is that landlords who are based in the community take a much more holistic approach to helping stabilize a tenant. They often have long-term relationships. It's more of a relationship than a business transaction. Out-of-state landlords, it tends to be more of a business transaction. And you're either paying your rent or you're not. And if you're not, they can quickly move somebody in. And again, they're not based in the community. And I think that's something that communities all across Maine are wrestling with. We've seen an influx of out-of-state landlords, corporate, and in particular corporate landlords who are coming into the state and buying up affordable housing supply, and often it's used as a tool to move tenants, affordable, low-income affordable tenants out of a unit so they can rehabilitate it and re-rent it on the market at a much higher price. So it's worth noting that problem exists. That was one case study. I don't want to generalize all out-of-state landlords, but I certainly do want to give recognition to our local landlords who are often very willing to work more holistically with us.
Thank you. So just real quick.
Yeah.
I just want to mention that given what you just said about out-of-state landlords, I'm a homeowner here. I've been a homeowner here for, I don't know, 10 years, whenever. My family's been here since 1916, owning the same home that I live in now. In the past 5 years, I've been deluged with offers to buy my home for cash. And it's all out-of-state landlords. And it's interesting that you bring this up, because it's all out-of-state. Not one person from in-state has done that.
Yeah, and again, I do want to give a lot of recognition. A lot of the landlords who are excited about master leasing, for example, are locals, and they want to see Waterville thrive, and they're willing to use what assets and resources they have, and they're just looking for partners who are willing to help make it make sense for them. And again, when you have those local relationships, it tends to be a win-win.
So thank you so much for this, Katie. It's amazing to see the complexity that goes into supporting people who are in homelessness, and obviously you've saved a lot of families from being homeless. My question is, what now? And of course, we all know the ARPA funds are one time, and they were meant to support people to come out of COVID and to recover from the economic impacts. But of course, we're seeing inflation, wage hikes, and all of the things that are leading to inflated home costs, which then lead to, one thing after another. So just wanted to give you the opportunity to tell us what you're looking at for the next year and how you're going to continue to support our homeless.
Yeah, great question. Thank you for asking. Like every business, we have had the same increases. I think our operating costs have increased by 60% over the last couple of years. In 2019, when I arrived, we were able to, our starting wage was under $12 an hour. Our starting wage is now in the $17 to $20+ an hour for an entry-level position. Our cost to operate is about $700,000 more in 2023 than it was in 2019. I think homeless services writ large is something that we need to be looking at strategically, both at the state level but also at the local level. I think I always say this when I speak to legislators and others. Waterville is quite literally the best place to have strategic conversations, because we have folks like Captain Sean Essler, because of our fire department, because of our healthcare system. Everybody's willing to work together. But now is the time for us to start coming up with some strategic plans for the next probably 3 years, as I think we're going to be going through a lot of turbulence. One of the things that we're working on right now is partnering with the Waterville Area Soup Kitchen to secure their building. I'm really pleased to report that Maine Housing is willing to extend the deadline on that purchase and rehabilitation of that building for a combined purpose. We're going to be able to expand our shelter to 38 College Ave and secure the premises also for the Waterville Area Soup Kitchen. So that's an exciting project. But the reality is that I think some of our darkest days are before us in terms of the issues that have been raised here. The cost of housing has gone up dramatically. I think as well, the vacancy rate statewide, but also here in Waterville, we used to have a really healthy vacancy rate of somewhere between 5 and 8%. That has now dropped below 5%. And I'm sure there's some areas where it's hard to get specific information. You can get it regionally, but not necessarily for the city of Waterville. But my sense is that our vacancy rate has dropped to 3% or lower. Particularly for those affordable rentals, it's very tight. And that's going to make it very difficult for folks who lose housing, particularly folks who experience eviction. Once you have that demerit on your record, it can be nigh on impossible to secure a subsequent rental. So again, building relationships with area landlords is critical. Having a strategy in winter is going to be critical, and making sure we're delivering the kinds of holistic services. We have changed our services so that we emphasize services for families. One of the things you'll notice through a lot of our diversion, and Waterville diversion, the Waterville funding for Waterville diversion was one aspect of it. We've also utilized a significant amount of money from private grants to support families, households with children specifically. We believe in the two-generational approach, and that if we can, we know statistically that a child who experiences eviction is exponentially more likely, or who experiences homelessness is exponentially more likely to experience homelessness as adult We already see children who used to come to Colby Ave when we serve children are back now as adults experiencing homelessness. So how do we invest in our children and make sure that we prevent them from having an adult repeating a childhood experience in adulthood? We know that we've got to tackle substance use disorder, and we have not yet seen the numbers of folks who are being impacted in other parts of the state through a change in the nature of the drugs that are hitting our state just now, but we know it's coming. So we have worked to revamp our shelter, make it more secure, make it more safe, investing in harm reduction strategies. But we know that that's going to continue to be a problem here in Waterville, a growth of unsheltered homelessness related to major mental illness and substance use disorder. And I think we have to come up with a holistic approach, not only to provide the services, but importantly, to fund them. And it's not going to just be homeless services or the city investing in it, but we also have to work with partners in healthcare, our business community, and others. Because I do think what we have accomplished as a city over the last 4 years is remarkable. And I'm so pleased that we've been able to do this in an environment like the city of Waterville, because I don't think you see it anywhere else.
Thank you. It'll be great to see people getting into those leases, and hopefully that will mitigate a lot of the, just open up more units which are available.
And I will say this for master leasing, we're going to target young people. Very often young people struggle the hardest to get into that first apartment. Many of us will recall that our parents co-signed our first lease. If you don't have a stable family of origin, that can make it impossible. It puts young people at risk. We have a successful program over at Colby Street for young people, so we're going to replicate that with area landlords out in the community, and we're really excited to provide that kind of housing stability for our young adults.
Katie, you used the word in the presentation, light touch, right? So what type of work is done to determine that it truly is like a light touch and not the start of something that's going to snowball, into something probably more catastrophic for this person?
Yeah, so one of the things that we do is triage, right? When folks call, and one of the things that we've done specifically, we've reorganized it for folks who recall back in the day when you would call. Oftentimes you get a volunteer answering the phone if it didn't go straight to voicemail. We've put those diversion specialists, prevention and diversion specialists, they're the ones who Monday to Friday are answering the phone because they have been trained in housing positive conversations where within instead of having to refer somebody and say, a case manager will call you back the minute that you call, you're immediately in the conversation of how do I triage you and signpost you, direct you to the most appropriate intervention. And when you do this day in and day out, it's your bread and butter. You can quickly identify after a few minutes whether or not somebody has some natural supports that we can rely on. How imminent is the threat? Do we have a program like rapid rehousing right now, and some of our other services that we can provide that we can quickly connect people to? Do you have a landlord that's in state that you have a relationship with, that you have a phone number for, that we can pick up and get on the phone and start managing that relationship? Very often, again, I love our local landlords because when we call up and say, hey, what's the amount to get us back on track? They're very willing to work with us. So all of these things come into play as we decide whether it's going to be a light touch. And again, our goal is to prevent people from becoming unhoused or staying unhoused for a significant period of time. Every night that goes by and somebody is outside or unsheltered, it's a risk to their health and welfare, to their safety, and to their overall mental health. So we're going through that process from the moment that they call. We're triaging and figuring out how do we direct them in the most appropriate way. There are some people, quite frankly, who have been outside for a very long time. They have major mental illness, significant substance use disorder, and it's going to take, and they don't have any documents, right? One of the things could be just, do you have your paperwork in order? Because that can be the difference between moving quickly and having to come into shelter for a period of time while we write to the state of New Jersey to get your birth certificate so we can get your identity documents going, so we can secure a voucher, all those kinds of things. So very often people call us, they have a lot of stuff in place already, and they just don't know what they don't know, and we can help them navigate pretty quickly and get them where they need to be. And importantly, we try, every time I sign a diversion check or a prevention check, there's a housing stability plan that's attached to that, whether that's budgeting or somebody has got a second job, they have a second part-time job, or they've got more hours. We've put in SNAP benefits, or they've got them connected to main care. All of these things start to change the profile, getting connected with KV CAP and utility assistance. Many people don't even know that they're eligible for that, right? So we begin to build a profile, and we know that once we get those things in place, that household is going to be stable.
Any other questions? Thank you, Kate.
Thank you.
Moving on to the city manager's report.
All right, thank you. A reminder, Waterville Wellness Day, September 12th, ahead of Falls. The city will be hosting this event along with 20 community partners and city departments as we discuss local resources, as we were just talking about, for housing, health, community engagement, and basic needs. And thank you to Todd Stewart and PD for organizing this, done a great job. Taconic Bridge, we did have a meeting last week with Maine DOT, as well as their engineers and the contractors on the project to talk about our recent concerns regarding traffic over to Winslow. It was a good meeting. They did offer to assist and help us with signage. They did talk about some tips from their experiences in dealing with these projects in other communities and their sort of views on what traffic flow will do over time as people get more used to the closure. So I thought it was productive. We're also going to be having ongoing meetings. We talked about maybe once a month, just to talk about ongoing concerns and make sure we're addressing all the issues that come up, particularly with our local business owners downtown. We want to make sure downtown is open for business and that people understand they can get downtown and the traffic stays strong. So I think a good working relationship with the folks in Maine DOT. We're going to continue these meetings and we'll update you as we progress. 46 Front Street, our renovations are ongoing. We are still optimistic that we will be in that space for our first meeting in October, fingers crossed. And thank you to everyone at Public Works for keeping busy and keeping this on schedule. I know they're working hard and we appreciate their efforts. An update as of today's numbers, which are updated from the report that you have in front of you on the rental registry. 405 properties, a total of 1,398 units, and we're now at 38%. So that's almost 40%, which is almost half. Right? So we're moving right along. And we've talked about ways we can enhance getting further compliance there. We have put it right on the homepage of the website, the link to register. So I think we're making it as accessible as possible. I'd like to announce city manager's open office hours, which is one of my favorite things to do. I've done it in previous positions. So this is the public's, as well as local business owners, opportunity to come and share with me their thoughts, concerns, ideas, complaints, criticisms, or any other observations, or really anything they'd like to share with me. So our first session will be on September 18th from 2:30 to 4:30 at my office on the first floor of City Hall, but we're going to be rotating locations for this and also rotating times so everyone can participate. So this is usually pretty fun. Sometimes it's well attended, sometimes not, but it's an offering I want to make sure I'm doing to the public so that they have an opportunity to share their views and concerns with me directly, and we remain accessible to the people we represent. So again, September 18th, 2:30 to 4:30. I look forward to it, and we'll be looking for other locations to host this in the future. Hazardous Waste Collection Day will take place on October 21st, 8 a.m. to noon at Winslow Public Works Department. Residents interested in participating must pre-register at Waterville Public Works at our facility, 6 Wentworth Court. Registration does open on Monday, September 11th. In addition, yard waste drop-off will also begin at Waterville Public Works on September 25th and go until November 22nd during normal business hours. And they will also have available Saturdays on October 28th and November 25th from 7 a.m. to noon. Lastly, our newly approved with the fiscal year 24 budget position for the community development coordinator is now open and being advertised. So anyone interested should contact Waterville HR for more information and a more detailed job description and details on the application process. But that is open and that will be advertised on a rolling basis until we find a suitable candidate. So if you know anyone interested, please spread the word. Thank you.
Any questions? Council comments or committee reports? Go ahead.
So the ARPA committee met on August 15th, and we reviewed the amount of funds that are left in our allocation, which is approximately $800,000. We also discussed how to proceed with the $50,000 from ARPA funding that's in the budget this year, allocated for outside agencies. Last year, we had a process whereby agencies could apply for funding, and we decided that we would do that again. However, we also had a conversation about the fact that some agencies are much bigger than others. For instance, the Mid-Maine Homeless Shelter, and providing a service at a different scale than many other smaller ones. So the committee recommended that we have a separate allocation for the homeless shelter, and that we also limit requests for other agencies to $10,000. So we'll be meeting again on the 19th of September, if anyone is interested in attending. It's, not an easy job because there never seems to be enough money to go around, but we're trying to provide a process that's as fair and transparent and impactful to the city. These are not direct taxpayer dollars, but they are federal funding that is allocated to Waterville. So we want to make sure that it is used to help Waterville citizens who are most vulnerable. On another note, that,
What's the requirements of an agency? So it has to be an established agency.
I need you to
could
go
you
up there,
go
sir.
up?
Sorry, the people online
Or,
can't
yeah, I
hear you.
understand, yeah. What is the requirements of the agency in order to, like to be an agency that could request that funding?
It needs to be a nonprofit organization.
So they have to be nonprofit certified and,
Yes.
Okay.
It's a 501c3 tax designation.
all right, thank
Right.
you.
Sure.
Good.
Okay, I also wanted to let people know about an opportunity. This is really nothing, this is a personal thing that I'm involved in, not connected with my city role, but I wanted to share that the Elm City Community Music School is having a pilot session this fall. This is a partnership between the Waterville Schools and the Green Block and others in the community who want to see more opportunities for people to take lessons, particularly children who are already maybe taking lessons in the schools and want to do more, or people, frankly, of any age who would like to have a musical experience, either private lessons or in a group. So we have quite a range of offerings, including fiddling, music production, community dance and drumming. There's quite a range of things. If you're interested, go to elmcitymusic.com and you'll see the full range of offerings, or you can email info@elmcitymusic.com as well. And those classes start on September 23rd. Registrations through Mid-Maine Adult Community Education. But we've only got a couple weeks left before registrations will close. So check it out and don't wait too long. Thank you.
Anyone else? Moving on to the public comment section of the agenda. If you want to talk about something that's not on the agenda, is now your opportunity to do so. Go ahead, sir. Yep, please. Just so we can all hear you.
Yeah, absolutely. My family and I moved to Waterville from Benton about a year ago. Spent 21 years in Benton. My wife's a lifelong resident of Benton. And it's the first I heard of Waterville taxes doubling. I wonder when that was going to start.
Okay.
I haven't received any notices from the tax department or anything. Was I supposed to know that before, I guess? I've never been to a city council meeting.
When,
I think,
when
I
do
think
they go out?
the idea of taxes doubling is somewhat misleading, but maybe be
Yeah,
allowed to speak to it.
taxes will depend on your type of property and a whole host of things that, the assessing department does to assess taxes. Tax bills are going out today and tomorrow, so those bills will be in the mail and arriving in mailboxes, probably tomorrow or the next couple days.
I was
But if you
aware
have
of all that.
specific
I just-
questions on
sorry.
your tax bill, in particular, and how that number was arrived at,
Yeah.
our assessing department can walk you through the process that's used.
No, that-
And there's also some great information, if you look at our
Yeah.
webpage, the assessor's page, there was a presentation here a couple weeks ago, talking about the whole process, how it happens. And it's not as easy to explain in sort of a quick moment, you have to spend a little bit of time reading through it. But we're happy to walk you through the whole process and how the number was arrived at for your individual bills.
I don't feel, that's not really necessary, other than the assessors came out. We live in a brand-new mobile home park, brand-new section of a mobile home park off Punky Lane, off the West River Road. And the assessors came over and, they told us all about that stuff. I just, they're talking about doubling taxes tonight, that's all I was saying. I was just a little confused about that, but.
I'll just say, I think there's no question taxes are going up.
Yeah.
They're going up in many, many places. I was just hearing about Winslow just before this meeting. They're going up quite substantially. They are in many places, and that has to do a lot of times with dramatic rises in the real estate market prices out there, and how we're conforming to what we need to as far as maintaining at least a 70% to the market value. So there's a whole lot to it, but again,
Sure.
we're happy to walk
course.
you through any of it.
No, I'm all set. I was just asking if this is an across the board, type of thing, and I'll be looking forward to my tax bill. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Hi, regarding what you just said, sir, my taxes have gone up 100%. I did call the assessor's office, and it's not just my taxes. There are lots of other residential areas particularly that yes, the valuations went up. According to the assessor's office, whom I did call, and I spoke with them, I spoke to a lady who works there. The homes weren't revalued. There was no reevaluation done. They were brought up to full fair market value, is the way she put it, which in my particular case was 100%. So it's not just me, my neighbors as well. There's a lot of talk about this. There's a lot of folks that are upset. There's a lot of folks that aren't here tonight that told me they were going to be here tonight. And frankly, they're going to be hearing a lot more about it because we can't afford it. It's just, and there is no forgiveness. Your taxes are going to be due when they're due, period. I talked with her and she said there's just not the way it is. Okay, so it's I don't know what to tell everybody. Me personally, I work for the state, and I'm gonna have to go get a second job because my taxes are double. So it's not just taxes; it's everything else. So it's a big double, triple, quadruple whammy. We're all getting it. So, but anyway,
I live in a brand new residence and
Well-
not paying any taxes yet. I'm getting my first bill,
Right.
and everybody else does.
well.
So I wondered if, I didn't know if this dealt with the taxes.
It's just as much my fault for not going to meetings as anything else because I haven't been a part of this when I should have. Just as well as everybody else, the apathy that I've seen in this city is appalling, frankly. There's so many people that they care until it comes time to do something. And then, so I plan on trying to be a better citizen for sure.
Sir, what was your value last year of your property?
Excuse me?
What was the value of your property last year?
What was the value of my property?
Yep, last year.
The value of my property was between $60,000 and $70,000.
And now it's 140?
116,000.
So not quite.
117,000. My taxes doubled because I had 22%, 22,000 on the home, what's that called?
Homestead.
Homestead?
Homestead exemption.
Yep.
Now that they've increased, I've gotten the full homestead exemption, which is 25,000. So my taxes went to just under $2,000.
So I will say that I keep hearing this double, and every single person that's up on here is also a homeowner in this town. Like, the councilors didn't vote to increase their taxes because they felt like it. 35% of the money that we take in taxes doesn't even stay here, it leaves the town. I find it odd, and maybe it is that people just aren't as informed because they're not coming to meetings and figuring out the things that are happening going forward. But this is something that we've talked about for 2 years. Like I've said for the last 2 years that taxes were gonna go up when it got reevaluated. Like it wasn't supposed to be a surprise to throw on you. Nobody, and part of the reason you only got $20-some thousand last year for your homestead exemption was because we weren't at full value.
We're 80%, with a, what, 25?
Yeah, so and that hurt other families. Like, I get it, that
She told me, point one, that there was a $2.5 million shortfall in the budget, and the prices, the home prices, property prices were adjusted specifically to meet that shortfall.
no,
If you go on the website, it says the exact opposite.
so it wasn't because of that, it was because we had to.
Excuse me just a second. This is an interesting conversation, sir.
sorry, I
But
can't hear you.
this is an interesting conversation. However, nobody at home can hear a word that you're saying because you're not speaking at the microphone. Thank you.
Correct, yeah. Please go to the
Oh,
podium.
Tom's here. I didn't see Tom come in the door. I didn't see Tom come up. So,
Okay, I'm sorry. That, yes, the lady that I spoke to at the assessor's office did tell me that there was a $2.5 million shortfall, and that's why prices, well, home values, certain property values, I should say, were increased. It wasn't across the board. There are some properties that weren't increased. Some are nonprofits. Some of them are exempt for certain reasons. But the majority of ones that went up. Yes, the values did go up, fair market value, approximately 100%, essentially. In a lot of cases, maybe not in all cases, but my taxes doubled, and I'm not the only one.
no,
The mill rate went down to 19.9,
which is low as it's been since the 1980s.
but the valuation went up. My valuation, based on fair market value, went up almost 100%. No, no. It went up magically overnight. But I say this, there was a shortfall in revenue because of an increase in budget that was based on, as I understand it, from the assessor's office, that was based on negotiations between unions and the city, which is, I understand it. I used to work for the city. I work for the state. It's union, right? I get it. However, at a time when everything else is going up, being grossly inflated, this is really not a good time for this to be saddled on folks, especially when I would say probably 70% of the people did exactly what I did and didn't contribute their time to doing what we're doing right now. People, they don't do it. And now all of a sudden they're caught in that, so what are they going to do?
So,
Right?
I think you're right. I mean, salaries go up. You've got, currently, when I got here, you would get paid more to work at McDonald's than to run into a burning building. Our officers were woefully underpaid. And then the school, we were always hiring the 3rd and 4th tier teachers because we couldn't get the teachers that we needed for our students. School asked for $1 million, they got it, because now we are absolutely hiring that 1st and 2nd tier teacher. Like, we always talk about spending money here at home, and then when we do spend money here at home, we still get our hands slapped. Like, everybody who lives here we all live here. We didn't raise your taxes simply because we wanted to. We had to. We're mandated by the state to make these valuations what they are. And if you look at inflation over the last few years, the fact that a city this size has only gone up $2.5, $2.8 million over the last few years, we're facing inflation just like you are at home. We can't change that. We can cut some things, we have, but not at your security and safety. Like, we're not going to cut the fire department so that it takes longer for an ambulance to show up at your house. We pay police officers more money to do community policing, and we've gotten those calls. People are happy that the officers are out of their vehicles walking these neighborhoods like they used to. All of that costs us money. And if you look at where Waterville is, poised to other communities that are around us, we're doing pretty good. Like, I understand that it sucks when your taxes go up. About a third stays the same, about a third goes up, and usually somewhere around a third goes down. I'm not sure that third went down this time around simply because you've got people buying $100,000 houses for $150,000. We're not doing that. The free market is doing that. That's not a mechanism that the city has an opportunity to control. So it's unfortunate that the taxes have gone up for lots of us, including everyone who's sitting on this panel with you. But those are the reasons. It's not that we had a shortfall. It's that we finally caught wages up to where they were supposed to be. And even then, we're still paying people 75% of what the market would pay them. So I'm all for cutting costs. I'm not at cutting costs where it's going to put our citizenry in danger. So if somebody has ideas of other things or other ways that we can spend money, I absolutely want you to come talk to us.
I agree, and sitting here complaining about it isn't gonna get it done. So I'm not complaining, I'm talking about it.
No, I appreciate that.
Right, and honestly, you know, what you're saying about, you know, ways to take care of things and get things done in the future, and talking with her at the assessors, I'm not gonna use her name
Yep.
just because, I asked her, I said, well, we're living in an era of artificially inflated prices of housing. It's just blown up. All these people coming, sending me offers from my home, they're doubling the price of what it was worth.
And
Okay?
sometimes more.
And if they're getting it, then it's artificially inflated, and the houses are selling for it. So that's what this was based on, was artificially inflated prices. So I asked her, well, what's gonna happen when the housing market crashes, just like it did in '08? It's gonna happen, it's cyclical, it's gonna happen. And she said, well, at that point, they will do another fair market value analysis, and they'll revalue it, and they'll reset the mill rate. So that makes sense,
Yep.
right? So,
I mean, the mill rate was what, 20, almost 26?
25.85. We held it last year at 35-cent increase. That was it. I think the year before that, they held it, I'm not quite sure, but held it flat.
Yeah.
yeah.
And
At
before the
80%.
year
And I'm not
before that-
sure how many properties Jay owns, but I own 2 houses in town.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm hitting my own back pocket.
I don't
This
own
is something
anything
that the
LLCs
state
do.
put on us. We didn't want to do this.
Right.
Yes, go ahead.
I think that it's important for people to realize that the valuation and the tax increase are two separate things. They happen to coincide this year, which I think did catch people off guard. But, you know, the reason that you're paying more taxes is not really because of the valuation of your home. It's because of the need to run the city, to pay our police and fire departments more, our teachers, our city staff. We're catching up. And we did hold the line on taxes for, I think, 4 years.
For a long time. Yeah.
And so it's unfortunately now catching up with us. We have, however, a great staff in our city. We have wonderful public safety departments. We have, you know, we're working on roads and sidewalks. These things cost money. Many things are out of control of the city, including, you know, the cost of asphalt and wages. I mean, it's just the market. So, but it's not that, though. I just want people to remember that it's two separate things. If we hadn't done revaluation, the mill rate would have gone up. But because, so it actually went down. So relative to other communities, we're actually doing pretty well. So it's a lot to think about, but
The way it used to be was if the mill rate got too high, it certainly affected the city's credibility when it comes
Right.
to its ability to borrow money, bond, or anything like that. So I get it. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
There's like a fail-safe. You got to do something to bring it down as well, because once you hit a certain point, you're in big trouble.
And the city actually has a pretty good credit rating. What are we, AA now or
Okay,
something?
well, that's it. Thank you.
I think the other thing I just want to say, though, is we do realize that this hurts people. And we've been talking about ways that we can help those who are, you know, really, really struggling. I don't know. We haven't come up with a magic bullet yet, but we do understand that it's hard for a lot of folks.
Anyone else?
Could I add a point?
Yep, go ahead.
It's, I would also, I think Rebecca is correct, brings up an important point. But I wanted to speak to the notion that the values are artificially inflated right now. There's a lot of discussion that happens at City Council about low-income housing, the need for more workforce housing, low-income housing, and that's correct. But that's only one part of it. There is also actually a desperate shortage when it comes to meeting the demand for market value housing in Waterville, because there's been a dramatic shift in the last 5 years in Waterville in the number of, upper middle income professionals that work in Waterville and who would like to live in the community that they work in. Vis-a-vis, Colby College has added a tremendous number of faculty as the college continues to grow. There have been, the same is true for the medical establishment in the city of Waterville. These are people, these are upper middle income individuals that are looking for housing, and they're not finding adequate housing in Waterville to meet their needs. And so it drives the cost of everything in the housing stock up because there's not the housing stock to meet that demand. So to call it an artificial inflation, those are people that work and would like to live in the city of Waterville, and there isn't housing to meet that need. And so if you wanted to do something about what you're perceiving as an artificial inflation of the valuation of your house, then it's a supply and demand. It's a supply and demand equation. There needs to be more housing to meet the workforce that is living in or wants to live in Waterville.
Think, Tom. Anyone else?
Mr. Mayor, just to wrap this up, I also just wanted to announce the city staff put together a one-page insert in all the tax bills. It really just lays out all the cost drivers the city faced this year and just some of the process. So I'd urge everyone to take a look at that one-page handout. It's just a couple minutes to read it, but it's really good, important information, and just spells out clearly what the cost drivers the city faced this past year were. And a lot of them, as was mentioned, are inflationary pressures that, just like you at home are facing, we had enormous pressures with not only wages, but also utilities and everything else that we do to provide services. So please take a look at that page in your tax bills.
Do the tax bill stuff a breakdown percentage-wise of what we're spending in like each department?
No. But the budget is on the available for viewing on the website.
And just one thing to your point, sir. We spent 6 months going over the budget last spring. Those were all public meetings. So we haven't done anything in secret. We haven't done anything in secret. It's all public knowledge. And if you'd like to, come down and participate, we welcome any participation from citizens. Thank you.
Did you, the gentleman, did you want to say something? Yeah, just want to make sure. And while he's walking up, Patty, is anyone online?
No, but thank you for reminding me.
Of course.
And me.
Yes, I was at the last meeting. I am a little further than I was before. I have a meeting with the structural engineers across from the City Hall on the 16th of this month. Hopefully I'll get approval. And I I understand y'all. It's already been overtalked with the housing situation, you know. But we do need to address it. I had spoke to you last week, Miss Green, and you know it's coming. You know what I mean? When the housing prices increase, I would like to do a presentation like this lady had done earlier. You know, I tried to do that at the last meeting, but I was shut down. I'm not sure why I was shut down. I had actually set it up through my Ward 1. Brandon, and was supposed to be able to do a presentation, and I was shut down from being able to do that presentation. You know, I wanted to, 10 minutes of my time, because it's hard to show a concept of what I'm trying to do. You know, and I'm trying to give something to the community. I'm not asking for anything. I'm doing this of my own free will, you know, and my time. I'm not looking to. I'm looking to build something in the community that we can share with other communities, so that they can do the same thing. So we don't have everybody flocking to this community. We need housing. We need places for people to live, you know. And there's plenty of people asking for it. We could be building it right here, you know. Thank you.
Do you have a presentation?
I am working on one, yeah. I'll have more when I speak with the structural engineers, for sure.
When you finally get that together, let us know.
I'd love it, yeah, thank you.
All right, I am going to move on to consent agenda.
Bill Mitchell is online and he would like to comment.
All right, go ahead.
Hi, Bill, can you hear us okay?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I
Yes.
can. Go ahead, sir.
Okay, sorry about that. I just would like to make a quick comment about Brian, the city manager's report regarding the bridge issue. And I know everybody realizes how important this matter is to downtown businesses, but having been a downtown business owner for a long time, I can totally relate to this. Really, really serious matter for downtown businesses that we do everything we possibly can as a city to figure out how to help traffic flow resume back into downtown from Winslow. It's not so much traffic to Winslow, it's traffic coming from Winslow, China, Albion, et cetera, that are now bypassing downtown. Because of the situation with the bridge. If I'm not mistaken, there are 2 lanes open going towards Winslow from Waterville. I don't see any reason why that can't be one each way. That's way better than having that bridge shut down coming into Waterville. And I think time is really of the essence for 2 reasons. One, we all remember that downtown has just come off the heels of a 3-year construction project, which was massively disruption for businesses combined with COVID. The other is we're going into the holiday season, which some of our downtown businesses, it's a make or break at holiday time. And so I would strongly urge the city, the chamber, everybody that can possibly move the needle on this, with the DOT, to move on it as quick as possible so our downtown businesses don't miss another holiday season as they have in the past. So I just wanted to kind of give a little feedback on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill.
Let me just respond real quickly. On the 2 lanes, that is something I did press them on. There are a whole number of engineering reasons why they can't do that. We can share those in more detail. But so we did bring that issue up with them, but I just want to assure again everyone that we are working with the chamber, all of our other community partners, to make sure that our downtown is as accessible as possible during this period. We are working closely on this, but we did bring up that exact issue of asking about the traffic going both ways, and that cannot be done for a variety of engineering reasons. I'm not an engineer, but there are many reasons why we can't do that. So happy to share those. Thanks.
Now moving on to consent agenda.
Move to adopt.
Second.
I have an amendment, just a couple of typos in the minutes. that I wanted to introduce. And I did send them to everyone. Should I read them, or?
I can, if you'd like.
Yeah, that would be great.
Under ordinance 140, Council Green proposed to add, let's see, Council Green was concerned about the density of a 2-unit, so add the word of, and question whether a traffic study would be done instead of the word one, change it to done. And then one other additional change, when Samantha Burdick was speaking, she explained that CA zoning, instead of all for professional offices, allows for all types of professional offices. So those are the 3 changes.
Yeah, thank you.
Second.
So I'll do a roll call
Roll
on
call,
that.
please.
Council Gilly,
Yes.
Council Klepak,
Yes.
Council Green,
Yes.
Council Morris,
Yes.
Council Frankie,
Yes.
Council McCormick.
Yes.
The vote is 6 in favor and 0 opposed. Can we move it as amended?
So moved.
Shall I go?
Second.
Roll call.
Council Gilly,
Yes.
Council Klepak,
Yes.
Council Green,
Yes.
Council Morris,
Yes.
Council Frankie,
Yes.
Council McCormick.
Yes.
Vote is 6 in favor and 0 opposed.
All right, moving on to old business, ordinance 140, 2023.
Could I have a
I'll
motion
move
by title only?
to read by title only.
Second.
Councilor Gilly,
Yes.
Council Klepak,
Yes.
Council Green,
Yes.
Council Morris,
Yes.
Council Frankie,
Yes.
Council McCormick.
Yes.
Vote is 6 in favor and 0 opposed. Ordinance 140-2023, amend the zoning ordinance 15 Washington Street.
So moved.
Move to-
Second.
Any discussion? I can get a roll call.
Council Gilly,
Yes.
Council Klepak,
Yes.
Council Green,
Yes.
Council Morris,
Yes.
Council Frankie,
Yes.
Council McCormick.
Yes.
The vote is 6 in favor and 0 opposed.
All right, moving on to order 142, 2023.
Approve amendment to Front Street parking lot lease.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Any discussion? Did somebody ask a question last meeting that we were supposed to get an answer to? About available spaces?
No, I'm good.
All right,
Thank you.
done deal. Just want to make sure.
All set?
Yep.
Council Gilly,
Yes.
Council Klepak,
Yes.
Council Green,
Yes.
Council Morris,
Yes.
Council Frankie,
Yes.
Council McCormick.
Yes.
The vote is 6 in favor and 0 opposed.
All right, moving on to new business. Resolution 144, 2023.
Authorize the issuance of a retail marijuana store license to Brett Scott, doing business as Cannabis Haven, Waterville, 341 Main Street.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Anyone here from there?
I don't see him here.
Any questions? And this is an existing place, right? It's just changing ownership.
Correct. It's already an existing establishment.
Can I get a roll call?
Council Gilly,
Yes.
Council Klepak,
Yes.
Council Green,
Yes.
Council Morris,
Yes.
Council Frankie,
Yes.
Council McCormick.
No.
The vote is 5 in favor and 1 opposed.
All right, moving on to resolution 145, 2023.
Authorize the issuance of a victualer's license to Nicholas Kosmitis, doing business as Nico's Waterville House of Pizza.
Any discussion?
We need to
Move
put
to
on-
adopt.
Oh,
Thank you.
Second.
Second.
Thank you.
Now is there any discussion? Roll call, Pat?
Council Gilly,
Yes.
Council Klepak,
Yes.
Council Green,
Yes.
Council Morris,
Yes.
Council Frankie,
Yes.
Council McCormick.
Yes.
The vote is 6 in favor and 0 opposed.
Moving on to resolution 146, 2023.
Authorize the issuance of a liquor license to Nicholas Kosmitis, doing business as Nico's Waterville House of Pizza.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, Patty?
Council Gilly,
Yes.
Council Klepak,
Yes.
Council Green,
Yes.
Council Morris,
Yes.
Council Frankie,
Yes.
Council McCormick.
Yes.
Vote is 6 in favor and 0 opposed.
Moving on to Resolution 147, 2023.
Authorize the issuance of a victualer's license to the Waterville Area Soup Kitchen.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Any discussion? Patty, can you get a roll call?
Counselor Gilly,
Yes.
Counselor Klepak,
Yes.
Counselor Green,
Yes.
Counselor Morris,
Yes.
Counselor Frankie,
Yes.
Counselor McCormick.
Yes.
Vote is 6 in favor and 0 opposed.
Moving on to Resolution 148, 2023.
Approve a section of Appleton Street as one-way.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Any discussion? Not that we have to, but it's been good, right?
Yeah.
Now, can you paint the curbs like books? Just saying, I mean, now that it's there, just make it look like a bookshelf. All right. Go ahead, Claude.
Just a quick comment about the national news. This has nothing to do with the parking or the one-way traffic, but there are places around the country where they are banning books and restricting libraries, but we're not going to do that in Waterville. This is an intelligent community, and we're going to stay that way.
Agreed. No banning books. It's silly. Roll call.
Counselor Gilly,
Yes.
Counselor Klepak,
Yes.
Counselor Green,
Yes.
Counselor Morris,
Yes.
Counselor Frankie,
Yes.
Counselor McCormick.
Yes.
Vote is 6 in favor and 0 opposed.
We love the library.
I'm ready to see
Done.
bookshelves, like on the curb. All right, we're usually a little odd, but we're going to do a discussion item before going on to the next couple ordinances. Want to lead us off?
Sure. Well, this came up when we were talking about these two projects. However, this actually has nothing to do specifically with the two projects on the agenda. It's just a matter of observing how many solar projects are now coming to Waterville. And our solar farm policies are a few years old. It seemed like a good time to just reevaluate to see if there are other things that we need to be considering, in particular advising the planning board as they are making determinations about projects. Things that have to do with how we're using our land. We don't have a lot of land in Waterville, so we need to be careful about what we're allowing, especially where there's a sale, but also rezoning. The disruption to habitat, the impact on abutters, et cetera. Even just things like what's the use of this solar going to be? Is it simply going into the grid? Is it benefiting Waterville residents? I mean, I think we all know that it's good to have more solar, but we have to consider the impact on Waterville too. So just wanted to open that up, see what other councilors thought about having a reconsideration of our policies, either in the Community Resilience Committee or at the Planning Board itself.
Go ahead, Claude.
Well, I think it's something that we'll certainly be wanting to look at in the Resilience Committee. One of the things that I've noticed is we've been chopping down a lot of trees and occupying a lot of open space with the solar farms. On the other hand, our roofs go still, they're still barren, thank you. So we may want to look at ways that we can encourage people to start to do more rooftop. I know that when Bill Gauntz came to us a couple of months ago about his project up at his car dealership, I went out and I was talking to him. I said, well, why aren't you just going to go on your roof? And he explained to me that they had just redone the roofs on their buildings with some kind of rubberized roofing. that was not suitable for putting up the solar panels. So I understand that there are issues out there, but you're absolutely right, Councilor Green. Is we've had our ordinance on the books now for a couple of years, and I think it's about time to look at it, modernize it, bring it up to speed. Look at what our experience has been and how we should what we need to do to go forward.
We had discussed in our meeting that there be buffers and stuff, like that some of these projects want to happen right on West River Road. Well, we also don't want West River Road to look like the on-ramp in Augusta. Like, that doesn't look good. It makes sense to have solar behind people's buildings and stuff like that, but out in just wide open spaces where everybody's driving by just does it. They're not pretty. They're not always as functional.
And beyond aesthetics, if I may hop in, I think it's part of a broader discussion about land use in the city of Waterville. I don't think there's been a city council meeting that I've been to in 4 years or whatever that we haven't talked about housing. And so, every acre that has solar on it is an acre that is taken out of the potential for building a new roof on that piece of land. And so I think, even if a parcel is not in the kind of ownership structure that makes it straightforward for that kind of development, I think thinking broadly about what the land use needs are in Waterville is smart.
Anyone else? Go ahead, Tom.
Another issue, complaints made last year, the course of last summer, contractors coming back with easier to get forgiveness than it was to get permission. They would start before they were contracted to, they were playing the catch-up game, whatever else. If they're gonna play this game, fine, we're shutting you down. Take your stuff out, go home, go somewhere else. We're not playing this game. To come ask forgiveness when you know you're not supposed to be starting something before a specific time. We have noise ordinances, we have other ordinances, and they just circumvent it. And we hear about it in Hannaford or Shaw's, or, why is it happening? Why isn't we called a code enforcement guy and his hands are, well, we need to, if you're gonna do it, okay, fine. I would prefer to see houses going up. I understand it's a better tax deal to do the solar than it is to put up a house. That's what it comes down to, tax. How much money are you gonna save? You're gonna see more solar panels wanting to go up than somebody wanting to put up a house, because they ain't gonna get as much on a tax. At the same time, if they're out there at 5:30 in the morning and they're already driving pile and they're not supposed to start before 7:30, it would behoove us to tell them, look, we're not giving forgiveness. We're not tolerating, sorry. Same thing happened out there on the interstate. The guy wasn't supposed to take all those trees out. And at the last minute, Rick Foss noticed that, why are the trees all gone? Oh, we're sorry. No. He should have been told to haul his stuff out and go find it someplace else to put it. You may not agree with me, but that's zero tolerance.
Anyone else?
Just one other quick, I've been out talking to a lot of people and I've heard a few things. One is just, some of the visual impact, as you mentioned, of the larger projects and just making sure we have, some buffers in place there. And I think I'll say, I think all of us in this room support solar and the goals of solar. None of this is being down on solar. I think it's just being smart about how we proceed forward with this. But also thinking about making sure solar isn't impacting any recreational opportunities we have in the city. I was meeting with Kennebec-Messaloncy Trails today, and I heard about some of the tree cutting over by the airport that destroyed some of the trails up there that they're quite not pleased about. And so I think as we talk about growing as a city, we also want to enhance our recreational opportunities and make sure we're not actually taking away trails or other things like that for the public benefit for some of these projects. So just another perspective there that I think is important to talk about. Thanks.
All right.
I want to add that I think Tom does bring up a good point about enforcement of whatever plan is in place. And I think in the case of the trees that were cut down, we were told that I don't know if we're talking about the same thing, but there were going to be trails that were recreated, and that hasn't happened. Yes. So.
That's what I was hearing about today, yes.
Right.
Yeah. And those are trails that people I really enjoyed and loved, and they're now, clear cut and destroyed. Yeah. Yes. I heard all about it today.
Okay, moving on to ordinance 149-2023. I'm assuming there's supposed to be a 3 there.
Amend the zoning ordinance, Thomas College Solar Farm.
You want to step up there now after this?
Move to adopt.
Second.
So we're amending the ordinance to fit what they need?
Well, so. Do you want to invite them to speak?
Yeah. Is that the Thomas College one?
Yeah,
Please.
we're up now.
Do you have a sketch or a slide of where it's exactly going?
I do with me here. I've got a computer as well. I've got a consultant online, but he can't seem to bring up the sketches, so.
Councilors, there are sketches in your packets also.
Yeah.
I was thinking for everybody else. Can't see it.
That's what they're having trouble with.
He's having a hard time pulling it up online.
Can you put it online? Can you put the packet online?
I
Or on the screen?
Sure try. Please hold.
So just to reiterate, the previous discussion was not targeted at any project.
Interesting timing.
Well,
It was.
I mean, it is coming up, so it's something to consider. But this has gone to the planning board, and it's been recommended by the planning board. Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so I guess while she's pulling that up, I will get started.
I tried sharing it. Can you see it on?
Oh, yeah, he's got it.
Yeah, we got it.
See it.
Okay.
Thank you. So we are looking at expanding our solar capabilities at Thomas College in an effort to meet our sustainability goals. We also have curriculum at the college for environmental students that could benefit from this. And we're basically looking to power our campus with about 2 megawatts of solar power. We did at one point have the largest solar farm in the state. It is on the roof of one of our buildings. But quite frankly, we don't have nearly enough roof space, and the buildings have to be structurally designed for the additional load of the solar. 2 megawatts is about half of what you see here. But in order to receive interconnection agreements with Central Maine Power, and also with working with developers who are, as you've pointed out, who are currently being flooded with RFPs and requests for these types of projects. They are looking for their potential customers to have zoning in place before they will even look at RFPs. So we are going through the process. This is still a feasibility study for us. We are looking at it. We will have to also obtain interconnect, as I mentioned, agreements with Central Maine Power. And that's really why this is kind of sprawled out on our campus. We will adhere to all of the setbacks, and we will also put in all of the buffering that's required. We do have, I know it's a little fancy on this drawing here, but we do have that depicted on the drawings that we have. And in a lot of these instances, the buffer is already there, so we wouldn't even have to cut any trees or put any additional buffering in because the solar panels would sit in open spaces on the campus. So we're looking tonight for the opportunity to rezone so that we can move forward into the RFP process. And then again, we're still very early in the process. We rely heavily on the generosity of our donors. So the next step after we get through the RFP process would be to reach out to our donors and see if they're interested in supporting us in this effort. We're not certain that we would go with a full 2 megawatt. Again, what you're looking at here is enough solar panels for approximately 4 megawatts. But in order to give the developers and Central Maine Power the opportunity to see how we could integrate the solar into our property, we're asking for the opportunity to develop in these areas.
Where's West River Road?
Yeah, go ahead.
On the, I'm gonna guess it's the western side of West River Road, that large, that right there.
Correct.
That is going to be a whole lot of people, a whole lot pissed off. Because that is a sloping hill, and you, even with buffer and everything else, it's gonna stick out. Is there a way we could go about doing this in phases on the east side and then consider that as the last phase as you're working, if this is gonna be a 4 meg? I mean,
It will not be a 4 meg. We need approximately 2 meg to power our campus and to meet our sustainability goals. So we would not venture into a 4 meg.
I'm just not knowing any better with what I'm looking at in the pictures. I know on that side of the road, there's going to be, it's a big field to fill up with solar panels. And I think it would behoove us as the council, it's your land. I don't want to stop you from doing whatever you want with your land. But at the same time, we're sitting here saying things, we need to do something about housing. I think it's going to be easier to sell and easier to swallow if it was done in phases or in bites on the east side and then consider the west side.
I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think that what this map shows is the locations on your property that would be optimal for solar. It's not, this isn't saying that you're going to put solar on that side. It's saying that out of your property at this point, these 4 spaces that are there are the ones optimal. Once you get the RFP, they will tell you what's the best bang for your buck as to where these could go, and then you can pitch that to your folks that want to think. So it may not actually ever happen on that side because
Correct.
These sides on the right of West River Road, or depending which way you're going, might be sufficient enough for you to do what you want to do.
That is correct. In addition to that, though, there's interconnection agreements that need to be made with Central Maine Power. And we're fortunate in that we have 2 mains that come together right in front of our campus. So we may be required, I know if you may have heard of cluster studies that they're doing in order to determine whether or not they can accommodate the additional load. We may be required to split this into 2 1 megawatt systems and tie into 2 different locations. So that may dictate, that half of the farm be on one side and half be on the other. So it provides us with the option to do that. We can certainly try to prioritize on one side of the road, but the requirements, may dictate that we do split the farm. So I at this point, I think it would be premature for me to share that's something that we could definitely do.
And it still needs final approval, right? Like, just because you rezoned it,
Just rezoning.
you're still gonna have to pull permits and do whatever else to build.
Yeah, he's just trying to get to the point where he can even put out an RFP here.
Yeah.
So
Thank you. Yeah.
can I just clarify what you said, that what we're looking at is 4 megawatts. Or is it 2?
Yeah, what you're looking at in terms of the layout for this is approximately 4 megawatts in total. So the actual farm will be about half the size of what you see here,
Yeah,
but
okay.
it could be in any of these locations.
Got it.
Is
Yeah,
the
okay.
point we're trying to make.
And I think for us, the point we're trying to make is that if you're driving down West River Road, we'd
Understood.
like to not see as much of it.
Understood.
I mean, does
Yeah.
that make sense? Like, you're not gonna cover all of it, but if there are hedges or bushes on the one side of the road there while you still get sun in the middle of the field, then that would be optimal. So, okay. Go ahead. Bob.
Understood.
Well, this is one of the things that we keep doing as a city council is a recommendation to change the zoning ordinance, to amend the zoning ordinance comes before us. And we start talking about all the details. The details are way down the pike, as I understand. But the changing in the zoning ordinance is a significant change in our zoning. And I'm a little uncomfortable with jumping ahead, even though I understand you need it for your feasibility study. But once we make the zoning changes, we never go back and unchange them.
Well, they do revert back in 5 years if nothing is done on the property.
Any other discussion? Patty, can I get a roll call?
Counselor Gilly,
Yes.
Counselor Klepak,
Yes.
Counselor Green,
Yes.
Counselor Morris,
Yes.
Counselor Frankie,
I would like the solar, but I'm a little uncomfortable with this. I'm going to vote no.
Counselor McCormick.
Yes.
The vote is 5 in favor and 1 opposed.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, moving on to ordinance 151? No, 150, 2023.
50. Amend the zoning ordinance 350 Kennedy Memorial Drive.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Any discussion?
This is another solar panel ordinance, isn't it? And I think the gentleman came and talked to us before about this one, didn't he?
I think this is.
Well,
This
this
is
is-
Mr. Mitchell's, and he is also available, I think, online, Patty, or.
This is
Arnie,
the one
to
that's
your
in there
question.
behind Emery's Meats and
Correct.
Subway
Yes.
and
Yep,
all
it's
that.
gonna go
That
behind
little
that
acre.
Yep.
Yeah, that we figured out, I think we finally figured that there wasn't anything else he could do with that,
Yeah.
if I recall, yeah.
And that's one of those where it's behind a building, nobody's seeing it, it's still gonna
And
produce
it's right,
electricity.
right next to the airport.
Yep.
Right, so.
Yeah,
so-
I put
so
the
this is
picture
what-
up. You can look
this
at
is-
it there.
We're changing it to airport zoning, is that?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay. Patty, can I get a roll call?
Counselor Gilly,
Yes.
Counselor Klepak,
Yes.
Counselor Green,
Yes.
Counselor Morris,
Yes.
Counselor Frankie,
Yes,
Counselor McCormick.
Yes.
The vote is 6 in favor and 0 opposed.
Moving on to order 151, 2023.
Accept the 2022 FEMA Assistance to Firefighters Grant.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Any discussion? How much money we get?
270,340.90.
I wanted Chief to have.
Oh, yeah. It's up to you, Chief.
$270,340
All right.
And 90 cents.
and 90 cents.
Any other discussion?
and what's the grant for?
The grant is for personal protective equipment, also known as fire gear. So generally, the fire department, through its operation budget, funds a small portion of fire gear annually, and that budget request hasn't been able to keep up with the replacement costs of fire gear every 10 years. So we partnered with our couple area communities that also had some fire gear issues, and we were able to regionally apply for this grant
and capture about 270,000 between 3 communities.
That's fantastic.
Teamwork.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
I want to thank you, Chief Essler. I believe you took the lead on this, but this is a great example of working with our partners in the region and also funding critical expenses in the city with non-taxpayer dollars. So wouldn't happen without your initiative. So thank you.
We certainly appreciate that. And again, in that operating line, we have the monies available for the match. And generally, we can buy, in between 5 and 6 sets of gear annually. But this will provide 65 sets of gear divided by 3 communities. So this will have a significant impact, for the next 10 years to our department.
Out of the 270,000, Chief, I see that Waterville is that the 155, and then like China Village is 36, and then Albion is 105. Is that what?
That's correct. And
All
the
right, cool.
155 that you're looking at in your packet includes our local match.
All right. How are you going to outfit everybody?
It'll be about 34 sets, so
Okay.
that's just over half of the department. And the reason why we are not equipping everybody is because the grant is to replace gear that is greater than 10 years old,
I gotcha.
damaged or obsolete gear, or to provide firefighters. We do have some firefighters that do not currently have gear. So this wasn't an all-out replacement. It was specific to the gear that was old and obsolete.
When it's all said and done, when you get that gear, how much of that 155 you think will be left over?
Our intent is to spend every dime.
Perfect.
Yeah, if we did not spend every cent of this grant, it would be given back to the federal government and given to another fire department.
Use every single cent.
Yeah, where are you?
That's the intent.
Any other discussion? Patty, can I get a roll call?
Counselor Gilly,
Yes.
Counselor Klepak,
Yes.
Counselor Green,
Yes.
Counselor Morris,
Yes.
Counselor Frankie,
Yes.
Counselor McCormick.
Yes.
The vote is 6 in favor and 0 opposed.
Moving on to
Thank you,
resolution.
Chief.
Resolution 152, 2023.
Approve aid agreement with Kennebec County Emergency Agency.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Chief, we do these all the time. It's just a
So this is just a simple mutual aid agreement between a newly funded pilot project through Kennebec County Emergency Management Agency. They actually utilized some ARPA funding that the county received directly. And the county felt at this time, given the proposals that had in front of it, that a pilot project made up of physicians that are available to EMS agencies that can respond Monday through Friday between the hours of 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. Could be a valuable resource for a number of reasons. Not only for the care that they can provide above and beyond what a critical care paramedic could provide, but also, looking at the substance abuse issues, in not only Waterville but in Kennebec County in general. As well as the mental health issues, as well as some, I don't want to call it an abuse, but more of a misuse of 911 services. Oftentimes, we can go somewhere and provide services with physician oversight that will prevent somebody from entering the hospital system, therefore reducing the cost of health care essentially. So Kennebec County is currently funding this pilot project. And again, what you have in front of you is just a mutual aid agreement so that we can work with that project. I do have questions, myself about the sustainability of the program because I think it will prove valuable. But again, that's a county issue and not necessarily a local issue for us. I will report back to the council, obviously my opinion and the value that Waterville sees, and it will be up to them to advocate for funding moving forward.
Any other questions? Go ahead, Claude.
This is a pilot project. What's the timeline for that?
They're going to do a year pilot project to establish value. I do believe that we'll see some benefit here because I believe Augusta and Waterville because we're both service centers, we're gonna be kind of the hubs for this program. So I believe Waterville will see a significant benefit from this program.
Go ahead.
One other question on a slightly different subject. I want to ask the city manager if there's any progress on our program to notify people of emergencies.
Our new notification system?
Yes.
That's going to be coming along with the website. So yes, that's in progress, and we'll have some more updates on that coming up.
Thank you.
All right, Patty, can I get a roll call?
Counselor Gilly,
Yes.
Counselor Klepak,
Thank you. Yes.
Counselor Green,
Yes.
Counselor Morris,
Yes.
Counselor Frankie,
Yes.
Counselor McCormick.
Yes.
The vote is 6 in favor and 0 opposed.
Moving on to Order 153, 2023.
Move to adopt.
Sorry. Approve an easement deed to Kennebec Valley Community Action Program, KVCAP.
Move to adopt.
Second.
And this is just a gate, right?
Yeah, so this real quick is the northern end of Eastern Avenue. It's not a really road to anywhere. KV Cab uses it to park their vehicles, having problems with burglary of their vehicles. There are easements for the water district and also the sanitary district. We have gotten okays there. Bill Lee has reviewed this. So this is really just to allow KV Cab to put up a gate to protect their vehicles overnight.
It's the old David Matthews.
Correct.
All right. Any other discussion? Can I get a roll call?
Counselor Gilly,
Yes.
Counselor Klepak,
Yes.
Counselor Green,
Yes.
Counselor Morris,
Yes.
Counselor Frankie,
Yes.
Counselor McCormick.
Yes.
Vote is 6 in favor and 0 opposed.
Are you motion?
Second.
All in favor?
All right.